The story originates in the democracy of peculiar islands. They are located between the earth and the sky. 9 islands were located among the chaos. Wooden bridges are built between them. You can also see houses on them. That is, the islands are inhabited by people. Then you can see how the armed defenders of their edges flock to one of the islands. We also notice a certain man in a blue robe. After that, he appears there in full growth. He has long blue hair that is pulled back in a ponytail. The guy's eyes are bright blue. The skin is pale and bruised. In his hands he has a turquoise sword. The people are shouting at him. They are asking to return to them the weapons that he stole, looking at the people who ran away. He laughed at them, thinking that they were the weak link. The guy examines all the people gathered and says to himself, "I found it." Makes a sharp leap forward. He hurts a lot of people. Then he swings his sword and makes a powerful blow to the ground. He keeps attacking people. Even more people came running. Arrows are flying at the guy. He deftly dodges them without getting a single injury. Next, we are shown a close-up of the Jiu sword. This sword has the strongest power. He is able to destroy the whole world by forgetting to heaven. Then the sky turns pink and Sakura petals are served from it. In this situation, the guy thinks, why couldn't I become one with this ball? He gave himself completely to this blade, killed all his feelings, all for the sake of the ball. He remembers a certain girl named Mo King Woo. The guy does not understand why he imagines her image before his eyes. Brown loose hair, purple eyes, she performs some kind of mercy on a flute. The main character thinks about his feelings, maybe they stayed. Next we learn that this girl, with a special passion, loved to dance. Her dance conveyed feelings. King Woo always found time to dance. Next, the hero apologizes for it. The girl, noticing him, approaches and pronounces his name, Yong. She said she would dance for him all her life. But Yong can't be with her. He chose the path of loneliness. The girl left her lover in a carriage. Blood. The silhouette of a man's face is not clear. The girl was wounded. Yong noticed it right away. He will start running to King Woo's carriage. The girl is completely exhausted. The main character approaches her, not understanding how this could happen. He's crying. Yong lifts the injured girl. After the words about the hope of meeting in another life, she closes her eyes. Yong blames himself for everything. He raises his head to the sky and screams in despair. The hero's battle with the people continues. His beloved suddenly appears, with whom he is fascinated, not noticing what is happening around. He holds out his hand. The people who attacked the guy took advantage of the moment and wounded him in the shoulder. After that, the girl seems to crumble. It was a trick of Yong's rivals. He was very angry about it. Leaping high, he mumbled the overpowering power of the sword. Then there are 3 kings who threaten the main character. Yong has no choice but to blow up his heart, thereby burying everyone, including himself. Yong blames the blonde man who is familiar to the hero. After that, Yong falls into nowhere. King Woo appears before his eyes, who again leaves him. Next, we observe a completely different guy outwardly. He expresses a misunderstanding of what makes him look like that. The main character wonders, where is he? The unknown person says, you've finally woken up. He is met by a guy with blonde hair. The guy begins to introduce himself. His name is Tan Tan. Yong recognizes him as his partner. Tang Tang was the best friend and brother in martial arts. They lived and trained together. Then he disappeared without a trace. Then it became known about his death. Yong, after these memories, hugs Tang Tang, who in turn does not understand these actions. Yong saw a man at Tang Tang's grave. It was Shikayan Shan. He killed one opponent after another, then slowly rose higher until he received the title of Shikshing. There he also won the heart and lungs of the soul of the former master, the dangerous Wu Kayan. But now you step aside because I'm back. A voice familiar to Yong is being issued to the side. This is Shikang Shan. He has a casual dialogue with the guys. Yong begins to have an incomprehensible feeling in his stomach. Why am I so sick? As if something wants to escape from my stomach. Something strange is coming out. Is the reason I was able to go back to the past because my soul finally united with the sword of Jujai. The guys go to the village of Shizuyan. Yong gets nostalgic looking at the village. Next, our hero meets his teacher. All 9 islands are demonstrated. One can learn from the master's monologue. He hopes that at least one of his students will be able to become one of the 10 great ones and inherit the purple bamboo court. Yong remembers that the master went on a hike and returned wounded. The hero begins to recite part of the mantra, which surprises the teacher very much. Next, he asks the master not to go on a hike. He succumbs to persuasion and decides not to go. The teacher gives Shun Kyudan. This is a kind of candy that performs physical ability. Yong eats it. Warm energy gathers somewhere in the stomach. The next day, a man with a sword on his back and a girl who could be seen in the uprising of Yong came to the village. They came for the teacher's head, but Yong got in their way. Yong approaches the girl and starts telling her how weak Yong is, which angers him. He starts swinging his ball at the main character. who takes a step back and realizes that he is standing on a cliff. Yong gives birth with Yong and renders on his back. Yong fell headfirst into the toilet. His irritation is growing more and more. Yong also starts flirting with a girl, which becomes the last straw. Yong's friends come running in time. Kayan shows strong sympathy for the lady, which further annoys Yong. The girl instructs to pass the envelope to the teacher. Yong suggests to Sister Wu to leave here. The next day, on one of the peaks, our main character tries to get to the plant. A snake jumps out of the cave with which he fights and wins the fight. He found the golden blood ginger. A pleasant feeling spreads all over the body. The guy begins to meditate and recite a mantra. Few people know its steel words. Ready. The guy comes down from the cave. Suddenly he meets a teacher. During the dialogue, the teacher gives advice to improve their skills. He tells the story of how he found Yong 16 years ago under his porch, where he gave him his name. The master gives Yong an artifact. The teacher said, the one who made this artifact was very skilled, since he could so skillfully engrave Chu on it. I've never seen anything even close to this, because this stone is the only one of its kind. I gave you the name Yong. Next we see that girl. Her name is Kayan. That's where she's going to go. From the conversation of Kayan's father, it becomes known that he sent her on a dangerous mission. Some robbers came for Kayan. They started beating him up. The teacher was watching this. Then the head and deputy of the village appears behind his back. They discuss Kyung's strength, namely, and disappointment in him. The bandits beat the guy, and when they were about to leave, the main character called out to them and a fight began between them. Yong surprised the audience with his skill. He held up well in battle and won. After that, Yong leaves. The masters discuss its power. The head notices that now he really needs geniuses in martial arts in the war with the Tarna Da Zhao, which is gradually seizing their edges. Looking down from the mountain at their lands, the three masters continue to discuss the situation in the country. We are shown a map of the world and how much territory the country occupies in CJSC. Further from the words of the chapter, we learn that he sent Kayan as a bait to distract attention. This greatly outrages his interlocutors, because Kayan is his daughter. But for the head, his daughter is just a small sacrifice to the darkness. He believes that if a daughter was born, then it is fate to send her to the role of bait. Here's Kayan. She rides a horse, simultaneously seeing a dialogue with her partner. He notices the surveillance of them, points it out to Kayan, and she orders them to split up. They do so, but the chase also decides to split up. Kayan decides to jump off his horse. The girl throws the horse and runs away from the intruders. They shout, "Don't let her go." Kayan refused to be trapped. Her opponents say that they had inflated expectations about the girl's strength, which did not come true in the end. Kayan's opponents are closing in on her. They begin to take out the blade, but suddenly a man appears behind the attacker. The man's name is Bai Kang. He came to the defense of Kayan and told the opponent that if they had not threatened the girl's life, they would have stayed alive. The opponent tries not to show his fear and is impertinent. Tan asks the question, who hired this man to kill Kayan? The opponent refused to answer questions. After the refusal, instantly a multitude of arrows pierced the opponents. They died protecting their secrets. Bai Kang instructs to move to Taiyang. The guys arrived at Taiyang. We see a certain palace. Next, we observe a handsome guy with lilac hair. His name is Tai Bu Chan. He is given the news about the people from the heavenly residence. Bai Kang and the guys came to him. Tai Bu asks the question, what happened during the travels? Bai Kang answers what troubles she faced and that they risked their lives. Tai Bu calms the guests, because they are completely safe here. At this moment, Bai Kang notices all the elegance and splendor of the crown prince. He rises from the throne and utters very important words for our heroes. I'm going to save your home. At this moment, Bai Kang realizes that they have found the right person. The training of Tang and Yong goes the same way every time. Tan is indignant. They say, Yong will drive him to death with such training because he always wins. To which Yong replies, you can rest and I will continue my training. Saying these words, Yong takes his blade out of its sheath almost without noise, which surprises Tang very much. In response, Yong says that all kinds of art require perseverance and sharpening of skills. After these words, Tan noticeably transforms and with the words that he is not tired at all, gets up and asks to continue training. But Yong goes against Tang and says that the training is over for today. Tan is not satisfied with this arrangement and he is embarrassed. But Yong says that they need to visit Brother Shi. Next, we can observe the wounded Kayan. He thinks about Yong, that he is to blame for his beating. In half a year, the competitions of all the heavens will begin and end, and Kayan will still be wounded. Suddenly, for Kayan, Yong appears. The wounded guy is outraged by his presence, because he is not happy about it. Yong came to report on his and Tang's training. He starts talking too much and ate all the sweets that he brought for Kayan. This really angers the guy and he jumps out of bed, shouting at Yong. After that, his body tensed up, as a result of which the wounds on Shikayan's body opened. Yong vouched for them to be bandaged. He overdid the bandages a lot. After that, Yong leaves to cook something for Tang Tang and promises to come again. Remaining at one with himself, Shikayan plunges into thoughts, where he expresses a misunderstanding of why Yong is so strong, how he has advanced so much in 5 days in his skill. After all, Shikayan is the first disciple of Master Meng Xiao, therefore he spends more time studying. He also promises to remember all the grudges he harbored against Yong and Tang Tang. He's clutching something in his hand. In his hands is a certain rare pill that the master gave to Yong. In 15 minutes, Tang Tang will come to collect water for cooking. Then Shikayan is going to dump this pill into the water. Shikayan, as planned, drops the pill into the water. 15 minutes will be enough for this priory to completely dissolve in water. We see Tang Tang's footsteps, a bucket next to him. He bends down to collect water. At this moment, Shikayan is thinking about the death of Tang and Yong. I'll let you die painlessly is what Shikayan is thinking. The new chapter refers us to previous events. By the time Shikayan sent the strongest poison to the source, the ignorant Tang Tang carries this poison cooking water. The food is cooked. Tang Tang, Yong and the master are sitting at the table. The food looks delicious today. Yong encourages you to start eating. Then the hero begins to actively eat. The master tries to stop him and tell him what is wrong with the food, but Yong does not listen to him and continues to eat. It turned out that the main character used a silver needle to check food for the presence of poison. The needle has turned black. Therefore, there is poison in the food. Yong is sure that Shikayan is behind the poisoning attempt. From the dialogue, we learn that the older brother took poison. When asked why do you need it, he replied that he was going to use it on rats. The teacher doesn't want to believe it. He asks Yong not to jump to conclusions. Yong knocks down the door with food and screams. Seeing the food in his brother's farts, Shikayan was visibly frightened. He says he's not hungry at all. Yong suggests playing a game. He jumps on the sick Shikayan. He takes him by the jaw with his hand and begins to say that he did not expect such a low act on his part, namely that he would try to poison the master. Also, Yong remembers how the master saved his family from death 7 years ago. Shikayan breaks out and is indignant, saying, he is to blame for the death of my younger sister. She was weaker than him, and he was going to take her out of the house, you know. Thank God my father found out about everything. And their wedding failed, otherwise she would have suffered with him for the rest of her days. Every night in a dream he called her by name Chu Chu. Chu Chu is her name, do you understand? What right does he have to be called my master after this? After that, the wall breaks. It is the master. It is clear that he is very angry. Shikayan starts yelling at the teacher. He refutes everything, saying that the guy is wrong. In a dream he was not calling Shikang's sister. Chu Chu is Chu Chen, the beloved of the master. They had to break up 20 years ago, but until now he only thinks about her. After these words, Shikayan begins to apologize. But the master says, I taught you, no matter what life brings you, forget and live on. But this is a lie that you will not soon forget. Raising his hand, Yong stabs Shikayan in the chest. The master is watching this. The guy tells the master not to worry, Yong will deal with him. The master said to beat the shit out of him. Then he left. Yong thinks that he did not want to interfere at all. But what would happen to the master after 8 years in a previous life? The guy did not understand his problems. We see the hero sitting in nature, meditating. The guy's hands emit light. Next, Yong thanks the teacher for his protection during training. The guy has almost reached the level of a warrior. The master comes out from behind the tree and says, they say, he did not expect Yong to notice that. The guy, in turn, hints at a certain technique, Meridian Purification. Meridian Purification usually occurs with the help of a master who made a breakthrough in his time. The master pours his energy into the disciple, thereby displacing all impurities outside. People of the master level and warrior rank must go through special training, strengthening the body and internal energy. Yong asks the master if he knows any training techniques capable of training up to the status of a warrior. The master says that he does not need it and he only wants his disciple to memorize the instructions. Next, the teacher turns towards the Droga home and says that it is already getting cool and encourages Yong to return to his home. Unexpectedly for us, Yong turned to the teacher, saying, how stupid you are, with tears in his eyes. Abruptly and unexpectedly there is a rustle, someone runs past. Yong notices it right away. In the distance, he could make out the silhouettes of people. The hero jumped off the cliff on which he was sitting while meditating, starts running towards these strangers. He thinks that these are the people who want to destroy the heavenly level. The men in black managed to hear Yong, but did not see him. Turning around, they did not notice anyone and considered it just for excitement. The main character hid behind a rock. A voice orders the gate to be opened, which the servants do. There was a second combat warrior outside the gate. When he leaves, he immediately notifies his subordinates that he is going to train. and they should stay here. After the words "that's right," he jumps on the rocks, poisoning himself for training. The second combat brother, having climbed into the mountains, met with people in black. He asks why they took so long to get to this place. In response, he heard that because of the strong security, it was difficult for them to get out. Next, they began a dialogue about Kayan and Bao Kayan as they arrived at the secret Iron Cloud Kingdom 5 days ago, but they were attacked on the way. The man in black is surprised by the fact that Wu Yuling sent his daughter on such a dangerous mission. We learn that the warrior has fulfilled his oath in front of the Heavenly Arena and the Iron Cloud Kingdom and asks about part of their agreement. One of the men in black responds to this with the words, "Your agreement with the 5th Chancellor was that our army would support you in order to rule at the heavenly level. The government also agreed with this. But now this goal is far from being achieved." The army was seriously angered by such demands. From around the corner, you can see the silhouette of Yong. The guy understands that Li Jin's song. This is the second warrior of heaven, has such power to negotiate with the government about such a thing. Next, we again observe the dialogue between Li Jin and the men in black. He realized that they were trying to get more information out of him, to which they answer him, so that he does not worry and tries to get something. They have a warrant from the Chancellor specifically for Li Jin. The man took out a box. Its contents began to glow strongly. These are the 3 pills of life Dan. One fruit of this fruit blooms once every 300 years. And it can heal any wounds, even fatal ones. Next, Li Jin asks to tell the Chancellor that he is ready for anything, if only it would help his wife to heal. In response, he receives that they will convey these words and say goodbye to the second military man. The men in black are leaving. Li Jin is left alone, looking at the moon and the night sky. Yong listens attentively to what is happening. Silence all around. Suddenly, Li Jin lands on the rock behind which Yong is hiding. He suspects something, but looking back, thinks that he was mistaken and decides to leave. Yong must have been blown away. He exhales with relief and utters one phrase, "How did he sense my presence?" A tall man immediately appears behind him. The guy was spotted eavesdropping. The man asks to repeat the phrase that Yong said earlier. The guy looks back. Behind him was Wu Yuling. Yong called him Uncle Master. Wu Yu tells the guy who these men in black were. It turns out they are servants of the 5th Chancellor King Ru from the kingdom of Da Zhao. Yong understands who we are talking about. He is the only one who was able to reach the rank of Chancellor at the age of 30. In the past, he was behind the assassination of Crown Prince Tai Butian. He also destroyed the Iron Cloud Kingdom in Wu Jin. He played with the entire Heavenly Arena and single-handedly destroyed it. He has no equal. Wu Yu says that King Ru is going to destroy not only the Iron Cloud Kingdom, but also the Heavenly Arena. He also wants to start a war between the 2 kingdoms. Wu Yu also says that the Iron Cloud Crown Prince is talented. Yong says in his mind that in 3 years he will defeat him. Besides, King Ro deserves the throne according to the hero. Yong says that he almost fell asleep from the man's speech and he needs to go to bed because tomorrow is training. Wu Yu hit the guy for his disrespect and keep talking about his own. Yong fell asleep and got hit on the head again. At the moment of Wu Yu's monologue, Yong plunges into his thoughts with the following content. "I remember how in a previous life, Tai Butian sent assassins, and the Heavenly Arena was destroyed. And so, everything repeats. If everything repeats, then what is the point of my return? I can't change anything. King Wu won't be able to be with me either and I'll have to watch her die in my arms again." The guy doesn't understand the meaning of his return to the past if he can't change anything. The guy goes into a rage. Lightning and an evil grin shine from his eyes. Yong tells himself that he will try to change history. Wu Yu was struck by lightning. A certain voice speaks to Yong. His words said that the guy was finally able to unite with the great sword and summon the dragon. People are walking in the distance. Yong tells the master that he needs to hurry up and leave here. He does not listen to him and gets a lot of arrows. The 2 of them are diligently running away. Along the way, they see a cave and run into it. Wu Yu asks what Yong understood from the words he said. Aaron replies, "In order to survive, the Iron Cloud Kingdom can hold its position in front of Da Zhao. We must use this to strengthen the Iron Cloud Kingdom and thereby get rid of the traitors." The master says that Yong is wrong somewhere. He says that the guy should kill Shikayan, because this is the best solution. Yong agrees, but on one condition: the master must take him to the Heavenly Arena. In his past life, it was there that Yong found a piece of the Sword of Sorrow. This is the first step to change history. The guy has to find this part of the sword first. Wu Yu agrees and says he will distract the guards. Then Yong and his teacher are chased to the Heavenly Arena. There is a small dialogue between Yong and the master, as a result of which the guy decides to go on this dangerous mission because he must be able to protect himself and the people dear to him. After that, they split up and Yong heads towards the Heavenly Arena. The master is angry at Wu Yu because he puts Chu Yong, who became a son for Shaoran, in great danger. He found the boy as a 3-month-old baby and protected him all this time, became a father to him, and his parents entrusted their son's life to the master. Shaoran prays that Chu Yong will return unharmed from the heavenly arena. Meanwhile, he is already on his way to a dangerous place. The guy is already at the gate. Entering them, the guy is surprised by the intense cold. He's trying to find the sword. Chu Yong notices a wall that is softer than it should be. He pulls out his sword and starts crushing the wall with it. We'll find the sword fragment. Taking it in his hands, he begins to burn strongly. The guy tries to cope with him with all his might. Chu Yong is in a lot of pain, but he doesn't give up. The sword of the 9 calamities has found its twin. The strongest ray from the fragment is aiming at the sky. This is all being watched from the palace by the very 5th Chancellor King Ro. At the peak of the clouds are Shaoran and Wu Yu. The master severely crippled Wu Yu for his careless words towards Chu Yong. After that, Wu Yu says that it would be possible to send Tang Tang to the Iron Cloud as a spy along with Chu Yong for the next year. The master takes Wu Yu by the shoulder and starts hitting Wu Yu again, shouting that he should not dare to endanger children. Suddenly, someone calls out to the two of them. This is Chu Yong. He returned from the mission completely unharmed. The master asks the question whether Chu Yong has learned new techniques. In response, the guy says that he is not sure about it and will check it now. Chu Yong raises his hand up and drops it sharply. The strongest airflow comes from this action. Instantly, Wu is under a layer of ice, which means that everything is out. Wu says that Chu Yong has apparently risen to the 5th level of the 7 stages of yin. Suddenly, Wu Yu's leg is pinched by the master, with the words, "This is not a joke." The master and Chu Yong decide to go home first. We need to prepare for the mission, which will take place in 3 days. Master Shaoran and Chu Yong returned home. They are immediately met by Tan Tan falling into a puddle, which greatly angers him, and he goes to take revenge on the offender. And again failure. Tan Tan is trying to defeat some huge creature that, according to him, got out of the pot. Chu Yong says it's his turn to fight this beast. Chu Yong starts a fight with a huge monster. H jumps on his back and grabs his gills, starting to squeeze them, and a huge fish begins to get lost and turn into an ordinary one. Tang Tang is in shock. This is the fish of spiritual capture. This is the treasure of the 3rd abode of the stars. If you put this fish in your room, you can increase your inner spiritual energy. This spiritual beast is ideal for training. We have only heard about it in the worlds. You can't tickle her, because she will turn into what we saw earlier. But Tan Tan was just tickling her at that time and she attacked him again, but everything went well in the fish in the aquarium. After that, Tang Tang says that he worries about his friend, because a dangerous mission is ahead. But Chu Yong calms him down and asks him not to worry. The guy calls for changing this world together, to which Tan Tan promises to work hard on himself. For the next 3 days, Chu Yong trained. Finally, the time has come. Chu Yong leaves the house and Tan Tan runs to meet him with a fish in his hands. The fish almost died and Tang Tang tried unsuccessfully to save it, which made Chu Yong laugh a lot.